I like to say that life gives us feedback. What we are putting out, it's like a constant response. We're choosing, we're showing up a particular way in the world. Life is giving us feedback. And when what we're choosing and how we're showing up is actually not our best interest, it gives us first a little bit of a tap, tap, and then we ignore and we keep doing, and it gives a little more of a tap, tap. It's a little stronger. And then pretty soon it's the 2x4 or the hurricane that has you laying flat out on the floor. And you're like, okay, maybe I'm ready to listen now. But it does constantly give us feedback, but it's not that life is victimizing us. It's reflecting what we're putting out so that we can go, wow, if I would like something different, if I want different feedback, then what can I change here? I mean, it is like as within, it's as within what reflects without.
Welcome to the Shift Your Vibe to Thrive podcast. My name is Emily Evans Russell, and I'm a single mom, multiple six-figure business owner, and master mindset and energy coach. I created this podcast with two main targets. One, to give you practical tools so that no matter where you are in your life right now, you not only know that things can shift, but you know how to make them greater. And two, to change your frequency so that you become an energetic match for everything you desire. I'm talking your relationships, your finances, your success, all of it. Think of this podcast as your weekly energetic upgrade with a mix of subconscious mind hacks, ways to quantum leap, and consciousness shifts. A place where you learn to sculpt your reality and actually finally truly have the magical life you deserve and one that works for uniquely you. Are you ready to uplevel your reality? I think I hear yes, so sit back, relax, and enjoy the ride. Thank you so much for being here. And now let's go to the show.
When you actually make the choice to be the leader of your own life, which literally means I'm not going to follow anyone anymore, which doesn't mean that people don't contribute to your life and that you don't glean things from them and that they don't add a lot to your world, but you actually make the choice and you take the action to be the car that's out in front. And when you do that, you're not following, when there's a detour and you're like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not the first car because I can see what that car is going to do because I'm not really sure if I'm supposed to turn there or not. Is that lane open? Is it closed? Do I go right? Do I go left? Oh, I don't have to worry about it. I'm the second or third car. I'll watch the cars ahead of me. When you're the first car, then you have to have a level of trusting yourself. There's nothing to look to as a reference for which direction to go. And that has been everything from I'm so lost, I don't know where to start. I don't know how to do that. I don't even know what's actually mine or what's true for me or what I would create if I wasn't looking to someone else for some sort of a starting point or a reference or a comparison, to what if I get it wrong, to, oh my God, are there people behind me? Well, I can't disappoint them or I can't mislead. I mean, it goes into all of the things of all starting with the choice, okay, I'm going to be the leader of my life, and then all that entails. And that's
my gosh. This is just a great way to jump in because your analogy is so good. I think we've all been that first car on the detour.
On the detour.
I don't know where I'm going. And it's so commonly said, we want to create our lives. We want to be out there. But when it comes down to it, all those questions that you just mentioned come up. So can you talk about like how in your life, how has that played out? Like you could pick any area. I know you've had changes in relationship and work and everything. How do we start to trust ourselves and know, like, I'm turning here, even though I don't really know where it's leading.
Yeah.
But I know this turn is for me. How have you navigated that?
One of the really big elements in being able to even move in that direction was the willingness to get it wrong. And that's been a really hard one for me. And I don't need to go into the story, but there was a very specific thing in first grade with gold stars in the spelling chart. And I remember it solidifying even my 6-year-old self, gold stars matter. And the whole thing was getting the gold star on the pre-test, which is the test you were given before you were given the words. It was, here's the introduction to your spelling words. Here's your pre-test. If you get it right, you get a gold star. And I wasn't getting gold stars. And the teacher singled me out on the gold stars. I just said I wasn't going to tell the story. There it is. And But what really stuck in my world was, oh, I thought the pretest was learning, but no, I need to have the right answers before I even know what the spelling words are. And that became a primary way I functioned in the world of I have to get it right. I'm not allowed to not get it right. I'm not allowed to learn. I'm not allowed to make mistakes and learn from what didn't go the way that I wanted it to. So to unwind that, and to go, I don't even know how really, but I'm going to give myself permission to get it quote unquote wrong. I'm going to give myself permission to make a mistake. I'm going to set me free to choose and then not hit the target and do my best to not judge me when I don't hit the target, but to look at what it created and then sort of course correct. It's kind of like the airplanes have to start before what's that thing, the air traffic control can say, no, go higher, go lower, go this way, go that way, the current's this way, but they have to start. So there was a first step of starting, and the starting was, I'm gonna say it's okay for you not to get it right all the time.
I love that story so much because I think most of us, whether it was physical gold stars, we had something like that. And I have seen that with my own kids not wanting to try something new because they don't know it yet.
Yes.
but this is how we all start. And I talk a lot with people about, I think a lot of us have an idea of where we want our future to go or who we're going to be in the future. And, you know, people often talk about your future self. And there's this misconception that somehow that future self is going to be doing it all right and perfect. And it's like, that's not the target we want to aim at. You're still you all the way along. Now, if you like a different future, we can look at, okay, what are these points of view and what stories do we have, like the gold stars from when we were younger, that we can change so we show up different, but we're not going to not mess up. Like that is always like definitely part of it. And I'd love to hear what you've done to be more gentle with yourself with that. I know I recently wrote myself a letter from that space of, okay, I know I'm going to fall. I know I'm going to mess up. I know I'm going to make mistakes. What would I like to say to myself? Like, how would I speak to my daughter when she's having that day, and write a reminder for myself so I can open up a letter to me and read like, hey, I know you're going through this and it's okay that you just messed up or it didn't go your way. What practices, like what have you found to do with that so that you are kinder to yourself?
Similar to the letter, mine's been more verbal. Some things I have written as well, but I have often, there's certain sort of landmark decisions that I made that I look back and go, Jesus, I really fucked that one up big time. And it will loop back. And I notice that it pops up for me a lot. And I recognize I'm still judging myself for that right there. Taking my current self with what I know now and sort of visualizing that younger self that made that choice. And instead of looking at her as, how could you, offering to her what I know now that she didn't know then, and letting her know it's okay. You didn't know that then. And I know it now because that you walked through that. So thank you for walking through that, because now I know this. So now you don't have to judge you anymore. Can you recognize the gift it is today? And just to be very vulnerable about that. I mean, one of the things I judged myself for so dynamically was my second marriage. And I told my oldest son, I'm getting married to this guy, and he cried. I mean, cried, heart-wrenching sobs. And what did I do? Married the guy anyway. And I heard someone say after that, that kids have the ability, and we do too, but we lose it, but they have the ability to perceive a choice in the moment the choice is introduced. And I know now that he was perceiving my world, because I never cried so much in my life as when I made that choice and walked that road for 10 years. And I had a very hard time letting go of what mother does that. What mother looks at her 9-year-old son crying and says, well, I'm going to do this anyway. So that one has been a lot of work, I'm going to say, and a lot of going back to have conversations with that lost, however old I was, 35-year-old. And also the willingness to sort of come to, there's not a magic wand. I've looked for that magic wand that one day it's just gone. And I haven't found it yet. I've found that it's less. I've found that it pops up not nearly as frequently as it used to, but it still does. And in the moments when it does, it's what I do with it in that moment. It's so easy to jump into the loop that takes me back into guilt, and I do sometimes. And then other times, which is getting more common the more I practice it, is hang on. If I didn't choose guilt, I can't go back and change that. What can I choose now? How can I be with him now? What can we cultivate now? So the choice to not look past, but look present and into the future I desire. Yeah.
I think it's so easy for ourselves to, that topic of guilt, to look back.
Yeah.
But there's, in the moment, like the younger you at 35 and anyone listening, like when you've made a choice that you look back on and go, oh man, but you made it from all of the information at that time. There's like no other choice you could have made in that moment. Like I can't go back and say, hey, Marnie, yesterday, can you put on a different pair of pants? It's like, no.
Yeah.
That's what I chose that day. And therefore, like this gentleness when we look back, and we're so able to give it to other people. But like you're saying, when it comes to us, we're so much harder on ourselves.
Yes. And I have to add that to this day, I have a relationship that I did not know existed. And I also know that just everything you said, that choice, as much as I can judge the 35-year-old self choice, that choice in those 10 years somehow contributed to me being able to have what I have now, create what I am creating now, and have so much gratitude for it that I really don't think I would have had without that contrast. So and I know that sounds kind of like, how does that all work? But it does. Somehow every single choice that we've made contributes to the gifts of the future if we don't stay stuck in the judgment of ourselves and the choices. Yeah.
And I love that you said the contrast. I was talking with someone the other day, and I just love this. She was saying everything in your life gives you clarity or contrast. And all contrast gives you more clarity, but all it is clarity and contrast for you to move forward. Yeah. And I think with you starting talking about trusting yourself. So how did you take that contrast from that marriage? Now you're in like you said, a marriage that you didn't even know this was possible. How have you used contrast to give you more trust in yourself as you move forward, knowing like, okay, I'll still make mistakes, but how do you keep moving? Because I see a lot of people stopping in that, I don't know which way to turn. So either someone else lead, or I'm just going to kind of stop in my tracks and feel super stuck and not know how to move forward.
Yes. One of the things I would say, and I hesitate to say this because it's so cliche and people say all the time, well, be present in your life. Just get present, be present. And we throw these words around, but living the reality of actually being present. And what I mean by that is when information comes in and it's uncomfortable and I don't like it, and I made a choice and I'm getting the feedback that, don't really like what this created. The tendency is to want to bury my head in the sand and not look at it, just pretend it's not there, or to defend why it was okay, or maybe it's, fine, or maybe it's going to be better than I thought, or whatever. All of the tendency is to distract myself from the information I'm receiving, whatever that information is, rather than going, I'm going to stop with all of the distractions and I'm just going to allow myself to be present with this. And I like to say, lean into it, because when that information comes, what we want to do is go like, run away. I want to go away from it. But if we'll be present and lean into it, then we actually receive the information and what we need to know to move forward in a different way. And so there's a willingness to be uncomfortable too. There's a willingness to go, I feel like I'm in the middle, like in the dead center of the fire right now. Okay, if I will lean in and be with it. And I find when I really, truly choose it, really, truly choose this, boom, present, in an instant, it shifts and it's something different. And it doesn't mean that it shows up out here instantaneously, but something shifts in here instantaneously. And there's more space with it, and there's more peace, and there's more, okay, I can do this. And then it's just the progress from there.
Well, I love that you said shifts in here, and you pointed inside, because I would love to ask, I think you described it so brilliantly, where you have something happen or information come in, and we can think our way and rationalize or in any direction, like,
Yes.
and that's all up here. Have you found, like, to get that presence and to get that clarity, have you gone inward? Like, what has that been for you? Because our heads we can go crazy in there.
Yeah. Yeah, we can. And it's funny you say that. I mean, I would say I spent much of my life through college, first marriage, all the things, like a walking head, basically, so not aware of my body and just in here all the time. And it really, and again, this is a sort of a practice, and sort of you try to choose this, okay, how do I go out of here? And then you start to get what it feels like in your body and the sensation of it. So for me, I literally will go, okay, I'm here. How can I drop here? And when I say here, for me, it's here. It's like my belly. But for everybody, it might be different. It might be more in your chest. It might be in your thighs. But might be your feet. I mean, but in your body, where do you drop into where you're like, okay, here I am, not swirling, but here I am. And, people use meditation, or people use all kinds, just sitting out in nature or whatever that is, but whatever connects you to being aware of your body and doing the dropping down from here to whatever that center place is for you.
Yeah. Because I found, like, your body, it doesn't lie to you. And one of the things that's assisted me a lot with trusting myself is when I go back to decisions I made, things that happened, and I look at it and it's something maybe I didn't like, oh, I was stupid with that choice. Okay.
Yeah.
But then I look back and I go, wait a second, I actually did know in something. Like, if often we look in hindsight, I can go back and go, oh, there were these clues from either I had a thought in an awareness, I had something in my body that I chose in the moment to not listen to or override. But rather than looking at it as information to show why I make mistakes or why I messed up, I actually use it as evidence to go, I can really actually trust myself, because all those things I did know somewhere. I might not have listened to it. I might have overridden it, but I actually knew. And so I'd love to invite people to look back from that way, because we go back to make us wrong. But there hasn't been one thing I've looked at and in hindsight and go, wow, there was that thought, there was that pullback, there was that hesitation, there was that question that I didn't act on. And I still went in the other direction. I actually did know.
Yes, that is so brilliant and so true. And it's a really useful exercise to do, because literally every choice that didn't turn out the way you desired, if you look back, so we could talk for hours on it's true. And instead of against you, use it for you. That's your information that you are aware and you do know and you can trust. Yeah. That's beautiful.
So what else, as you have a new marriage, I know you've made choices with your work and job that have led you in different directions.
Yeah.
What else, like, have you been using yourself to keep moving down as you really are the lead car and going forward? What else have you found really valuable?
Having a look at what doesn't actually serve me, that somewhere I decided I have to do that I don't actually have to do. And I have asked myself that question. I ask it every day. What have you decided you have to do that you don't actually have to do? Because it was so amazing to me when I first asked myself that question, how much of every day I would get up and do either just simply the same thing I did yesterday because I did it yesterday, or somewhere I decided I have to do it. I mean, you drive your kids to school, right? So it'd be easy to go, but I actually do have to do that because they need to get to school. But when you're in the autopilot of anything that you have to, you are not seeing the bazillion other choices that could be available. Someone else could take your kids to school. There's so many choices, and I'm using that just as one example. But when I really started to look at what have I decided I have to do that I don't, that was a long list. And then second question, if I didn't have to do these things, well, do I want to do these things first? Which ones are fun, which is a contribution, which one's not so much? So if I gave up having to do what I've decided I have to do, what else would be available? So it was kind of, I'd say it's reframing everything. And it's so amazing to me how I'm 52, and I would say it's just the last couple years that I really even began to get what making myself a priority looked like. I literally would go from, and if I went through my career history, the theme was always, I would take a job and I would be basically, here's the owner of the company. I'm second to run the company while I go off to Costa Rica and Mexico and all the things. But I was doing everything for them and their vision. And then I would leave that and go do the same thing somewhere else. That's not a bad thing. There's a gift in there. I was able to hear someone else's vision. I was able to communicate it to the team. I was able to carry out what they desired for their company and the vision that they had for it. That's not a deficit. That's an add. And that was so natural to me that, oh, I can be the second car. I can just follow the lead car. It's fine. I can follow that lead car. I'll be the second car. So to really allow myself to make myself a priority and even throw out everything I thought I had to do, everything I thought I was, everything I thought was the way it was supposed to look, and just be curious as if today is day one. What is actually fun for me? What's making me a priority? If I didn't have to do anything and I could only choose towards what added more to my life and my joy and my peace, what would that be?
And isn't that interesting? There's something I remember having a conversation with my mom. My mom is now in her 80s. And I was asking her, as you look back on your life, like what were sort of the decades that you found the most fulfilling? And she said, well, 30s is really fun. But she goes, I'll have to say my 40s and 50s were phenomenal because she said, I gave up basically having to get the gold star from everybody else.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
I wasn't looking externally anymore because similar, she had checked off, like, I'm great at my job. I've done this and this from all this external validation. She said something just shifted where that wasn't the most important thing anymore. Yes. And it's like you give a permission slip to yourself to just go, I'm going to be the lead car. And it's okay if I don't get gold stars from somebody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's so much freedom and so much, well, just freedom and space in that.
Yeah.
And the one thing that comes up when you say all of that too is, I started off talking about my son and my marriage choice and all of that stuff. And one of the obstacles on the way for me has been the guilt loop of not just that, other things. It's been very familiar to me to fall into the guilt, just the trap of that and what I should feel guilty for. And it was almost like I walked through the world with, I had to make up for the damage done to everyone. It was just, there's no rationality to that. Why do you walk through the world with, how can I make up for the damage done? What do I owe you? What do I owe you? How can I make up for the damage done? That was kind of my mode of operation in life, was somehow just showing up. I was causing deficit and destruction, and I had to make up for the damage. And then when there was an actual story, well, you married this person and your son was not happy about that, and he wasn't wanting that for his life. So there's an actual story, then that even intensified. And what I started to see was how easy it was to manipulate me and how controllable that I was, and how always give till the tank was empty and never allowing to receive my existence was, because that's how I was functioning. That was my primary mode of operation, is I got to fix, I got to take care of, I got to make up for the damage that I've done. And recognizing the killing that was doing to my very being was also a pretty strong catalyst to say, I need to look at this guilt thing and actually, whatever it takes, find a way to unhook and unwind from that and not be at the effect of.
And what I love with that story and sharing that is it relates to so much we've talked about, is having that humility and the willingness to look at, okay, there might, because I have this story running and I have to make up for all of this damage done, then it can create in the outside world, right? How people can easily manipulate me and control me, but we can't change that. But when we look and we do the work with ourselves of healing that, because that doesn't work for you, then that's so beautiful to be able to go in like that and really change that story for you, so that the outside world around you shifts and you don't have to be the effect of those things.
So much so. And there's so much wisdom in what you said. It's so easy when I like to say that life gives us feedback. What we are putting out, it's like a constant response. We're choosing, we're showing up a particular way in the world. Life is giving us feedback. And when what we're choosing and how we're showing up is actually not our best interest, it gives us first a little bit of a tap, tap, and then we ignore and we keep doing, and it gives a little more of a tap, tap. It's a little stronger. And then pretty soon it's the 2x4 or the hurricane that has you laying flat out on the floor. And you're like, okay, maybe I'm ready to listen now. But it does constantly give us feedback, but it's not that life is victimizing us. It's reflecting what we're putting out so that we can go, wow, if I would like something different, if I want different feedback, then what can I change here? I mean, it is like as within, it's as within what reflects without. And it's very easy. I'll give the example going back to my son. And I've seen people do something like this. They have something that they feel so guilty for. And the way they free themselves of guilt is, well, he had a part to play in this too. He was 9 years old and he just, who's he to tell his mother what she should do and blah, blah, blah. Let's do the fight. Let's do the flip. Let's do the justification of why it was okay. And then we just keep this going on. It's the opposite side of the same coin. Or it can be, you know what? No need to justify. No need for a story on the other side either. No need to make myself a victim of circumstance. What is it that I can shift and change in me so that I have more of what I actually desire in my life? Period. End of story. It has nothing to do with anyone else ever, 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 ever,
Yep, ever.
Never.
And I think that feedback analogy is so key because we can attach a lot of meanings to what's going on around us and blame, like you said, this person, or make ourselves a victim. But if it's just honestly feedback, really, then nothing is designed, like the universe or God or source, whatever you call that bigger, whatever resonates with you. It's not like I want to hurt this person. It's like, here's some feedback. If you're going in a direction that isn't leading to greater, you're going to get feedback. And like you said, sometimes we listen to the little feather, often not. We're further down that road. But it's a beautiful thing when you look at that we're getting feedback that is like, hey, maybe not this direction. Maybe you don't need to buy this story for yourself any longer. And when you let it go, you will let it go when you are ready.
Yeah. And to me, the universe basically functions on your wish is my command. So if that's the way it functions, what it's giving back to me is somewhere what I'm asking for. And that might sound crazy when what's coming back is not what you desire, but when I've really been honest with myself and I'm getting certain feedback and I go, wow, what do I actually love about this? There is always something I'm getting out of it. Otherwise I wouldn't be choosing it. So recognizing that of, wow, if the universe operates with your wish is my command, what am I asking? It's showing me what I'm asking all the time. Is that really what I wish to be asking for? Would I like to ask something else?
Yeah. And I want to add with that too, at least this is what I've seen in my own world and in people that I've worked with, that when you do the work that you're talking about, like the internal shift and having that grace and humility and compassion for yourself to go, okay, I'm going to change this. It's like you planted the new seeds. So you've planted your new wishes. And sometimes it takes a little bit for the external 3D reality to match that, but to know that you have that sense, when you have the sense on the inside, like, okay, this actually just changed. I don't have that story running in my head anymore. I don't feel like I have to make up for the damage done all the time. And then the world around really does shift, but to have some grace with yourself while the seeds are planted, like knowing they're growing, but you don't always see the sprout above the ground right away. It needs a little bit of time to catch up. But when you know from the inside, like, no, this has shifted, there is absolutely a change in the future coming.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. And sometimes it's kind of if you're on a really big boat, like if you're on a tiny sailboat and you turn the rudder, then you pretty quickly turn. If you're in a car and you turn the steering wheel, you quickly turn. But if you've been driving this barge, like, down the river and it's massive and for a long time, you turn the rudder, the ship doesn't just go boom. It's got this whole thing that it's got to go boom and all the way around. So you're in motion, and just the more you can let it be.
One thing I want to ask you before we end this beautiful conversation is something you said earlier. when you were talking about the things you think you have to do and
Yeah.
then letting those go. So I've been on a similar journey and actually really let go of things that I'm doing from a have to, an obligation, or just an energy that I don't want to continue putting into my future, like stress or all of that. When I've let them go, because I'm used to having a very full plate, it was really weird to not have a day full of have tos and shoulds. What did you do with that space to go from busy, I have to, because that's actually really comfortable too. It's like driving in the second car. You know what's on the schedule, whether or not you love everything or not. What was that like for you?
It was very interesting, very much what you said, because what I discovered was how much I filled my day with that. And it was my direction, even sort of my purpose, if you will, was this list of the things that I need to do. And taking those things off my plate, I remember I'd sit at my computer and look for things to distract me because I didn't know what to do. I mean, I'm still creating a business and I really like making money. And so some action is required here. What do I need to do? And where I used to check Skype and there would be 1,000 messages and 1,000 WhatsApps and 1,000 telegrams, and now there's 2. How many times in a day can you open Skype and go, yeah, there's no new messages, like that was such a striking difference. And it took me a minute to realize I don't actually know. I know somewhere, but I don't know the pragmatic step to take right here to start creation in the direction that I'd like to go. And so the first thing I would say is I allowed myself to be with it instead of trying to forge through. I noticed wanting to get into, but I need to make money right now. So I need to put some things into place right now. And while there's some, yes, let's get this going, let's do this. There was also the knowing that when I try to force through, when the energy doesn't match what's up, I just can put in so much time, effort, energy, and it doesn't result in a lot. So I gave myself permission to be with it and to go for more walks and we had a little combo about this the other day, making workouts a priority every single day and taking 10 minutes to play my piano every day. And what are the things that nurture me? So instead of going straight to task-minded to-do list so that I have some sense of how to get what I need to do in the day, all right, what's nurturing to me? What's peaceful to me? What is supportive to me? And allowing myself to have space with that. And I would say that has been, like at least a couple months of mostly being in that space. And it was just within the last week that there was like a spark, and not a solid, here's the way forward, but a sense of set the sail this way. And so now that's the space I'd say that I'm in. But so that was a long answer to give yourself permission to be with what energy is up instead of trying to make it be something else. You're not going to stay stuck there forever. And you might need to refill your tank a little bit because it might be a little bit depleted.
Yeah. I love when you said it's really simple, but you said move away from like task oriented.
Yeah.
To actually things that nurture us. I know, I mean, especially in our culture, even the things you mentioned, I think we all know, like, okay, I could go for a walk and I could take a bath and I could move my body, but they're seen as like indulgences and extras and the tasks come first, or we kind of fit it in between the tasks. It is very different to prioritize those as actually the things that create your life. Like, I'm going to play the piano. It's not a waste of my time or an indulgence. It's actually a creation of everything of your business. You're just not at your computer doing the task that we're used to doing to go check that box off. I got that gold star and I did it well. It's a total flip of looking at how we actually arrange, organize, prioritize our daily life, because that's where consciousness is. That's where it's in the daily activities. It's not like we have to go somewhere special.
No,
it's actually right here all the time.
It is back to what we were talking about with the feedback, because it is continuously with everything giving you the feedback. So when we don't need to distract ourselves from the feedback because of all the reasons we've decided we don't want to be with whatever it is, then we actually in the very moment can choose the thing that's going to add the value, even if it doesn't make logical sense. And you said something to me, Emily, maybe you can remember how you said it because I really loved it, but it was basically, is this thing whatever this next thing I'm going to do, or this thing I'm scheduling out in the future, is it add to my energy? Or can you say how you said that to me, or take from the energy?
I think I probably said, does it give me more energy or does
Yes.
it drain it? Like, is it an
Yes.
energy gain or an energy drain? And it's really simple, but it's amazing the amount of
It's
things
so
do that drain it.
yes. And
Yeah.
I've used that so much. And it's really interesting when you start to ask it's that trusting yourself again. Oh, 10 minutes on the piano or write this article. Oh, actually article right now. Cool. Because that you can perceive that, oh, that takes me here. And
Yep.
if it takes me here, well, then what's going to take me here? And yeah, so that's been very helpful with all of this too, to just drain or add,
Yep. Yep.
Yeah.
And it's so, and I love that you said, because sometimes it is going to be the thing that looks like a task. Like if I write this article now, but that is going to add to my energy. It's going to increase my energy and my creativity and my sense of like being alive. If it's not that in the moment, choose something that will, because those other things that they will get done with a completely different energy when we don't approach it from that, like, got to get this task done.
Yeah. And how much energy do we waste, if you will, or gets drained when we get in the mindset of the to-do and we just have to soldier on? And most of us are it's very, especially American, culturally acceptable and gold stamp approved. Soldier on, put your big girl panties on, just fight your way through it. You can do it. And you can fight your way through it. And what if you could have greater results without the stress and without the drain, and with actually having joy and peace? I'm for that.
Me too. That is a great place to end this conversation, because I would love that just message to look at that. We can soldier on and keep going. And is that where you want to be? And what does that create for your energy and your health and your vitality if you keep doing that? Or these shifts, like all the tips and beautiful words you shared here today are so much a different way of actually getting to enjoy the moment and not just push through.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you so much, Marnie.
Thank you, Emily. It's always fun talking to you.
You too. I hope you got something out of that episode. If you like this podcast, please share it with someone you know who'd find it useful or interesting, and subscribe so that you can listen to past and upcoming shows.